All right, good morning, everybody. It is Monday, January 20th. I think January's just flown by for some reason. And we are the Resale Revenue Facebook group. We meet Monday through Thursday at 8 a.m. Central Time. And we're at 9 now, sorry, 9 Central Time. And we talk about all sorts of great reselling stuff here. That reminds me of the Central Standard Time. I sent Rowdy a text because I needed him to deliver some jewelry this morning. And I said, you need to be there at 10 Central Time. And there's CEST. And he goes, why wouldn't it be Central Time? And I was like, oh, I'm sorry. I'm so used to talking to people about the group. I was giving Rowdy time zones. Um, he's off to go take 14 boxes of junk jewelry to somebody. So um, he was afraid my car wouldn't start because it's so cold this morning. Everybody have a good weekend this weekend? Did we have a good sales weekend? Everything go well? I thought it was crazy this weekend. I went ahead and packed up like 60 some last night so I wouldn't have to do them all today because there's no mail today. So remember that there's no mail today. So keep your stuff till tomorrow. My guy's gonna love me if I have another busy day because he's gonna have bins and bins to pick up. Um, I had a few good sales I posted in the Facebook group, and that's a good reminder that we work on averages. So I had lots of really small sales, but a couple big large profit margins brought me back up to where I needed to be for the weekend. So just remember that we all work on averages. I'm going to do our topic this morning, and then I'm going to do open Q&A, and you guys can share with me how your weekend went or any questions you might have. So I read a lot. I read a lot of vlogs and blogs and whatever. I guess I watch blogs and I listen to blogs. Um, but I think it's very interesting how so many times that when I'm reading things, I can just put them in a frame of mind for um reselling, right? So many times we can be thinking about something and think about how it pertains to us, or maybe it doesn't pertain to us at all. But we can make it fit for our life and what we do. I want Mondays to be about motivation, but sometimes motivation, as you know, for me, I have a hard time always being the full glass person, but sometimes it's more of like, let's hear about why maybe we couldn't do something or why something isn't working, but make it positive, turn it into a positive where you're like, okay, like maybe that rings true to me. So how can I change it? Which is a positive, right? So anytime we can identify something that can be better, do better, um, push through it, make it better, that's a positive for me. So even though sometimes this stuff sounds negative, it's really to make us think about how we can make it work. So this was in I don't know. I forgot to write it down, but it was a blog on the internet, and they defined 20 reasons why people fail to succeed. And then I found another one that was 25 reasons you're not as successful. And I thought it was kind of interesting because they were definitely on different tracks of mind how they thought. So I'm going to kind of just mash them together. But the first one was there's no vision, but they don't have a vision. And I think that that's true because I feel like with reselling, if you don't hone in, and I know that that's kind of a controversial topic, but niche down. So there's a difference between doing reselling and making it work, and then there's making it work and making a living out of it. And if we're gonna make a living out of it, I do truly believe in niching down. So if we don't have the vision of what niche we're in, or the vision of a plan, or like how I tell you guys we have to work on numbers backwards, if we don't have that, we just kind of float around and not really sure what direction we're going in. We're not sure how we're going to get there. We might say, hey, I need to make 100K a year. I want to make 100K a year, but without a plan and without a vision, it's just not going to pan out. So if you're doing this part-time or it's your side hustle, I think that this is less important, but if you're going to really succeed and push through it, make this a real deal, we have to have a vision. So your vision and my vision are going to be different. So define what's important to you and what you expect and what you want to achieve and why you want to achieve it. And if we can't say those things, then we need to really think about them. And we can actually, I think we could do a whole call sometime on visions because to me, visions are different than goal, like solid business goal. Sometimes visions have a different meaning to them, I think. They don't persevere. And the other one, do you know what the other article's very first one was? Is you're lazy. That was the very first number one reason why people don't succeed is that they're lazy, which I think is probably somewhat true. Um, especially with the coaching that I do and even outside of this group, I get a lot of it's just not working. I hear that multiple times a week. It's just eBay's not working for me. A lot of times we're not working for eBay. It's not fun. It's a grind. If you're gonna do this full time, there's more grind than there is fun, if you ask me. Can we make it work? Absolutely can. But you have to persevere. You have to not be lazy. So, um, a lot of people are passionate about the sourcing part, but like, let's be real, who's really actually passionate about the listing part? But if we don't do the listing part, we're never going to make any money. So the first site is when people lose their gusto for this, right? So I feel like everybody comes into this like really excited. Oh my gosh, I get paid to go shopping. I don't have to work for anybody else. I can really make this work. And then they kind of, I think we've seen it, all of us have seen this with different members where, they have a bad week or they just don't list or they don't have any money and that enthusiasm just kind of dwindles. And about the first sign of the dwindling enthusiasm is usually it's a bad sign. So if you feel yourself losing the enthusiasm and all of a sudden it just feels like a grind, sometimes we can mix it up. Sometimes we can change it up. But if we don't push through that part and we're not ready to know that it's not fun and that there's definitely easier ways to make a buck, I feel like we just set ourselves up for failure and we probably won't meet our potential. They can't commit. So this is a long-term game. And I think this definitely applies to reselling. How many of you guys came into this and really thought at the end of first year or whatever, like I'm going to be rolling in it or I'm going to have this great store and I'm just going to be super successful right away because I'm picking all this good stuff and I'm going to put all my effort into it and then it doesn't happen, right? So if we don't commit to it long term, and I was really bad about this because, both Chris and Tech would say all the time that they like it takes like the 3-year thing. We hear that a lot, like about after 3 years it gets easier. Well, I was thinking, well, yeah, probably for the normal person, but I'm gonna make it in a year, right? Yeah, I would honestly agree now that I'm in year 3. Year 3 feels like it's a trigger point. And I'm not really sure why. I can't necessarily explain it, but it takes about 3 years to really get rolling. I don't really know why, but it's true. So I'm not patient. Patience is not my biggest virtue by any means, and it's something I've learned along the way. So this is a long-term thing. Or they have zero motivation was their next one. I mean, how many times do I hear from people, "How do you stay so motivated?" Yeah, I'm not really. There's most days I don't want to take those 25 pictures, do those 25 listings. I just do it. So, but a little motivation never hurt, right? So we got to feel a little get up and go in our step. And if you don't have that natural get up and go, it's going to be harder than it needs to be. Um, when people say that they love procrastination, well, I don't know that anybody says that they love to be one, but I think when you put the gift of self-employment in lots of people's laps, what happens? All of a sudden, there's always tomorrow. Well, I'll just do it tomorrow. I can do twice as much tomorrow. I can handle this tomorrow, right? We always have tomorrow because nobody's going to be standing there getting ready to fire us if we don't get it done today. But eBay will fire you, and that's a fact. If you don't go sourcing and you don't have anything to list, eBay's not going to be happy with you. If you don't sit there and grind out your pictures and your listings and then your sales drop off the cliff at the end of the week, those things all happen when we always have tomorrow. So I've really, really tried, and what helps me with eBay is if anything I can say yes to, or I say, why not do it right now, right? So if we can just knock it out right now, don't put it on the list. Don't say we're going to do it later. Don't put it on tomorrow. Just knock it out. Get it done. Uh, if you lack focus, so I feel like eBay and reselling on any platform requires focus that lots of us naturally don't have. How many of you guys go from, okay, I'm listening to my phone rang to, then I'm going to go source and come back to this. I'll do it later. And then all of a sudden it's 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night, and you're still listing. Like that's totally happened to me where my work day feels like it's never done. And usually if I look back, it's because I didn't put in the focus that I needed to. Because it's so easy to go and check. The number 2 one on that other list was too much social media. And I would agree with that. It's like on average of how many times a day people check their emails and Facebook and stuff like that. And it's insane. So that's when I got that separate phone where I don't get notifications. I don't get texts. I don't get messages. I don't get emails. And so when I'm doing my photography, I don't get to check any social media until I am done. And that is really good for me because it's so easy. How many times do you sit there and just refresh it, right? Just to check it. Every time we move our attention from what we're doing to go check it, that's losing your focus. It's a huge thing. That once you figure out how to stop yourself from being scattered and stop yourself from getting your attention, drug in a million different ways, the better off we'll be. That's a huge one. Um, they overthink everything. Well, I can definitely say that this happens in reselling. I mean, how many times do people come on and they haven't listed an item for 3 days because they've been price comping it and they can't tell what they should price it at, and they're afraid they're gonna miss out on those $5 or $10, and then but what if it's that unicorn piece that I'm never gonna find again, and I might make an extra, it might be the extra one, or you know what I mean? Like, all of a sudden, we're down this rabbit hole, and it never was gonna be worth more than $30 to begin with. Slap a price on it, move on, right? So, the fact that we overthink things, I think, we get an offer. We overthink an offer. We overthink how much more money we could get if we waited. How much more money should we, how should we counter offer? We overthink things. Quit overthinking, just do it. Run your business, move forward, just do it. Overthinking will kill you in reselling. And so I think that definitely can apply to us. They have very little patience. How many of us are really patient people, right? So I'm really patient with other people's misgivings. I'm not as patient with my own, right? I want it and I want it right now. Or how many of you guys have a slow day and now you're like, this just isn't working. I just can't do this. I don't make any sales. Nobody wants my stuff. I'm doing everything right and I'm not doing it. How many people do that all the time, right? And it's been a day or it's been a bad week. We all have bad weeks where I'm like, does eBay know I'm here anymore? Like, what happened? Or you hear the eBay turned me off, right? eBay turned my store off. Nah, you know what? It's just business. Just roll with it. It's the way it is. But don't get impatient with the process. And the next one was they feel entitled. Well, that's the exact same thing we were just talking about. How many years like I do everything right, I have the best stuff, my prices are right, and I'm not making the sales. That's called entitlement. You're not entitled to do anything on the sales. You're not entitled for any of this. You don't deserve any of it. So we have to look at it like every sale comes in, like how grateful are we, right? How many items, go look at that saturation level that we were talking about last week, and then tell me how grateful you are that out of all those items, somebody picked your item to buy, right? So that's kind of being a little bit grateful and having a little bit of less entitlement. They need other people's validation. Boy, that can happen, right? How many times do we need to I think a big one is when we decide to make this a business, how many people are afraid to say, "Oh, I'm reselling for full time," or I'm gonna sell people's used things for a income, right? And you may get some funny looks, so you may get a little bit of judgment. I think that totally applies to reselling. And I think, well, for one, it's nobody's business. If you and your family can make it work and it's making everybody happy and you're paying your bills, it's nobody else's business anyway. But if you've done it correctly, which usually means, and I know people don't like to hear this, but you better have 6 months to a year worth of all your income you get from your other job. So if you bring in $65,000 at your regular job, you better have $30 to $60,000 sitting in cash in an account before you go reselling full time. That is my opinion. It is my strong opinion. I've seen people get in really bad, like, I'm going to quit my job. I'm doing this full time. I'm going to make it work because I'm a hard worker. We cannot control eBay. We can't control certain circumstances. So you better be sitting on, as long as you're sitting on a little bit of mountain of cash, I'm cool with it. I will support you. I will back you up. And yes, it could work. But we don't need to have other people's, what other people think doesn't really make a difference. Uh, the next one that guy had was they believe in excuses. And I can for sure validate that this is a reselling thing. Nothing's ever their fault, it says. Boy, reselling's full of excuses. I get more excuses when I'm nudging people along than you would ever even, I have kids, I have a husband, I have pets, I have a job, I don't have time, I'm tired, I have to sleep more, I have to go to this, I have to do this, I have to go to that. And it's just a never ending ball of excuses. And that is something I really, really work hard on not doing. because all of a sudden I realized this is doing nothing but pulling me down and excusing my bad behavior. So I always think to myself when I say something that's an excuse, I want to hear it out of somebody else's mouth. So I pretend somebody else in this group is saying it. And if I wouldn't accept it out of their mouth, I'm not accepting it out of mine. So picture whatever you are whining about or whatever your excuse is, and picture somebody else having that exact conversation. And what would you say to them, or what would that thought in your brain tell you about them? Right? So if you would think, gosh, what the heck's their problem? They need to get up earlier. What's their problem? They need to just get their stuff done. Then say that to yourself because that is so true. The excuse train is is not a good one. Um, they're full of ego and they're too proud to ask for help. So I think that that is something that's just human nature, right? Nobody wants to admit that they are having problems. Nobody wants to show it's the same thing. It's I equate this to people not wanting to store review because they're afraid of what people say, they're afraid of what people think. But yet if we looked at their store and we helped them or I helped them, it could change their whole business. But we're afraid of getting knocked down. So like when I gave Mimi big props the other day that she let us review her store on the jewelry call because it takes a lot of guts to let people open your store up and just review it. And it's hard to hear the things that we need to improve on. It's hard to hear the things that could be done better, even though we think we've done the best we can. And then sometimes get told that those things we're the most proud of are really wrong. Those things are hard to hear. So to allow people to open up and do that in front of everybody, to me, that's a huge business step because that means you care and you want your business to be better if you put yourself out there like that. So don't be full of ego. Don't be so worried about judgment. If it will help your business and it'll help your way that you do, do in life and your finances, just do it. So like that to me was a huge no matter what I would have said about Mimi's jewelry store, it would have been a plus because that means she was ready to hear what it took. Um they don't know how to say no. So we can definitely apply that to eBay, correct? How many times do people take hoards home? And I was really hoping Larry didn't take all that extra jewelry because then I was gonna have to skirt around this one or not call him out because he totally would have been looking at me like, she's talking about me and all that jewelry. So it's hard if somebody gives you things. Do we have people saying, hey, I know you resell. Here, I'm gonna give you all my crap, right? Or hey, I've got all this excess, all those boxes of jewelry we saw Larry have the opportunity to take in bulk, not the ones he cherry picked through. That 20 pounds, that's great, fantastic. But like, how many times do we have those opportunities where something's really cheap, or at the end of an estate sale, here you just take everything, you can just have it, or the dollar racks, at auctions where you can just have it all. We don't know how to say no, and I learned how to say no, and it was so good for me. I don't take bulk jewelry deals just hoping that there's something good in there. I used to all the time. Or if it was cheap, I'd buy it. I'd take that chance. I don't anymore. I know how to say no. So learn how to say no. If you feel like all of a sudden you're the dumping ground, if all of a sudden you've turned into the family goodwill, say no. I don't want it. I don't want to deal with it. It's going to weigh you down mentally. It's going to weigh you down financially. And while you're digging through other people's stuff that they don't want, you could have been picking stuff that's going to make you money. The next one, the last one I have for you is they have a victim mentality. They think the world is against them and they spend most of their time whining and blaming others. I feel like I hear that a lot. I feel like, well, you're lucky you live in a place where you can get all the good stuff. Or, well, my flea market's expensive. You have cheap ones. That's why I can't make it work. Or, I can't really go out of my house because even if I don't have a car, well, there's online, right? So I can guarantee you almost any victim mentality you send my way, I can counteract it. And I almost, my mom's been in the hospital. She's still in the hospital since New Year's Eve. And there were several days where I thought, you know what? Nobody would blame me if I only listed half the stuff that I'm supposed to list today because my mom's in the hospital. I'm dealing with insurance. I'm trying to find care for her. Nobody would blame me, right? Well, that was a victim thought. Because could I make it work? Could I get my stuff done? Yes. So I did it. The day I had my surgery. I had a few things scheduled, but I came home and I got my listings done because you know what? I could, and I wasn't going to be the victim. Would it have been understandable if I missed? Yes. And do I think sometimes we do have to give ourselves a little grace? Things happen in our lives, accidents happen in our lives, sickness happens. And, I tell anybody that if they're down with and they're really sick, like, you got to take care of yourself, rest, get better, and then get back at it. So I definitely am not saying you should never take a break or that you should. I think everybody deserves vacations. And when I'm on vacation, I only list, I usually list, I put up 5 a day scheduled, and then my sales plummet through the basement and they come back when I get back, and that's okay. But we all know people that are the constant victim. They're sick, they don't feel good, their kids don't feel good, their kids got stuff going, and that's fine, but just don't use it as an excuse and be the victim all the time if you're trying to make this work and then you can't pay your bills. If you're part-time and you just do this around your life, that's differently. It's different. Then that's what you do. If other things come up, you just don't do it, right? That's fine. But if this is your full-time job, you owe it to your family and whoever else you're paying your bills for to not be the victim and pull yourself up by the bootstraps and do it. And to make these things, I battle these things too. I mean, I can tell you there's just days and days where I'm like, who the heck wants to sit here and take 25 pictures of jewelry again? Not me, right? Who wants to handle the third or fourth grumpy customer? Or who wants to, and shipping. Oh my gosh, I hit about package 30 and I am over it. I don't want to ship anymore. I don't want to deal with it anymore. I'm not grateful for my sales. I don't want to ship it. I'm done. Last night, by the time I get done, I think it was like 67 packages. I was done. I did not want to ship not one more package. I wasn't misgrateful. I wasn't happy for it. I just wanted it to be done. And so it's okay that we have those feelings. We all have those feelings. It's just powering through. And one that I'm really trying to work on that I think is beneficial to me is I'm trying not to, whenever I start feeling like that, when I'm listing and I just don't want to list anymore and I don't want to do this anymore, I just think to myself, you know what? I could be sitting in a boardroom. That's my alternative. So I just try to power through it and do it. And I do it first thing in the morning. So I take my 25 pictures first thing in my day, no matter what day of the week it is, because I don't mind the listing part. I don't like taking the pictures. It's not my favorite part. I get bored with it. I don't want to do it anymore. I feel like I'm chained to it. I don't mind the listing. So as long as I get those 25 pictures knocked out, I'm good. So I try to do that first thing. And I also been really trying to do the why not now. So if something comes up, instead of throwing it on my list, why can I just knock it out right now? And if I can, I do. So I just thought that and I think on the other list it said something about you don't you don't have the confidence that you're running a business. And I think that's so true. If we are depending on this for our income, guess what, guys? This is a business. If we're paying bills with this money, it's a business. And we have to treat it like a business or it's never going to be the business we want. And so I get that there's, I hear YouTubers and stuff out there like this is never, reselling other people's stuff it is a business, guys. We file taxes on it. We make money from it. It's a business. So we have to treat it like one. And another big thing is like, if you wouldn't tell your boss, if you wouldn't go home sick from work for whatever reason, you're not doing your reselling job. If you wouldn't go up to your boss and say, I'm not coming in today because of XYZ, then you can't be calling into yourself either. It's the way it is. And I think about that all the time, like, okay, well, I'm tired. Okay, but would I go home sick from work for it? No. Okay, well, then my business deserves for me to show up. So, I depend on this income and we all have bad weeks. I have bad days. I have all sorts of stuff. But instead of, we're going to talk about in Thursday morning, we're going to talk about in the 34.99 call, we're going to talk about what do we do when sales are slow. And this mindset has a lot to do with it. What is your mindset when sales are slow? Do you just go down the rabbit hole? Do you just go down that this isn't working? Nobody wants do you let yourself get pulled that way? Or do you say, hey, I'm going to list 5 more items today than I usually do? And if we can get our mindset one way or the other, game changer. I used to have a woe is me, when I'd have a slow sales day. Now I just, I've been listing more than my 25, just this Like, I don't put that pressure on me. I still just make sure I can do my 25, but I tell myself I'll prep an extra 5. I can get them done, that's fine. If I hit that 25 and I don't want to do it, that's fine too. And you know what? Every single day since I started doing that, I go ahead and do my extra 5 because it's no big deal. I think it's like a mind thing, like because I don't have to, then I do it. But if you told me I had to, I'd probably hate it. I don't know. I'm childish like that, I guess. So don't take all those things I said as a negative. Take them as a, okay, I do that. Like we all have things where, like people will text me after calls and say, were you talking about me? No, I'm not talking about anybody in mind. But if you feel like I'm talking to you about any of those, then take it and make it into a good thing. Like, okay, now I recognize it and I can move forward and fix it. Anybody have any comments about any of those things that they would like to chat about? Everybody's all positive this morning. Nobody felt like I was talking to them.
Hey, Carrie.
Yes, hey, Dini.
Um, I'm having a little trouble with my phone, but some of the stuff you said about part-timers, um, I felt like, you're talking to me, of course, but I mean, you didn't intentionally mean to talk to me, but I still feel like there's still excuses for me. I like you said, I wouldn't. I would give, I would give some grace to other part-time sellers depending on their situation, but for myself, I felt like a lot of what you were saying applied to me, even as a part-timer. Basically, not using my time wisely was the biggest one because I really do have the free time to do it. Because other than going to work, I don't have a lot of other obligations. I'm not raising kids or have another gig or anything like that. So, just my 2 cents. If you're a part-timer, you got to look at like how are you using your time. I think that's the big thing for part-timers is we got to use our time wisely.
And full timers, because sometimes we have all day. And I've always said, you give me all day, it'll take me all day. So we drag out tasks. And so if you go to your spouse and you break down how much you're making per hour, because you're spending 9 to 10 hours a day on a 3 hour job, it's not going to look very good, right? It's not going to look good on paper when you break it down. So we need to make 3 hour jobs take 3 hours. Larry.
I think it boils down to your priorities too. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
if you're okay with you taking the afternoon and not doing your work, well, presumably those other things you're doing have higher priority over the return you're getting, the
Mm-hmm.
satisfaction, the money, whatever it is. So I think the challenge there is just to be real with ourselves. It's like, okay, I'm going to go do this, and it's at the expense of this other thing, and then you should be okay with it.
Mm-hmm.
We got to prioritize the things we're doing. And if money and income and paying your medical and paying your mortgage is important and this is doing it, well, you don't have a whole lot of excuses then.
Oh, Jenny, I can relate to that. Jenny says everyone else in their house is sleeping. Usually they're gone, so she feels trapped like she can't work right now. But I'll work on that stuff later. Instead, it's about being flexible and still productive. I've had that, like, especially since I do most of my work at like 5 o'clock in the morning. And I feel like I can't really, I can't get up and do what I want to do, but sometimes I use it as an excuse because it's like nobody's going to notice if I'm in a different room or, you know what I mean? Yeah, my husband works for the state, so he's home for the holiday too. Of course, I have him going delivering junk jewelry boxes with Robbie, but um, yeah, I totally feel that, and we just have to push through it. Or if everybody's in the house, like I'm like, go away, like I have stuff to do. I can do my stuff while they're sitting right here. I'm just choosing not to because it's not in my comfort zone. Like I'm used to having the whole house to myself. And then when I don't, it's easy for me to be like, well, I can't work on XYZ till they leave. Well, yes, I can. That's just me feeling, I don't know why I do that, but I do that. Anybody else have any thoughts on any of that stuff? I think we all have it happen and it's just recognizing it. So like I said, it's not a negative thing. It wasn't meant to be negative. It's meant to make us just think. And one of my big ones is definitely time wasting. And like Nadine was really, really good and was really good at the thought of, you know, what am I really doing with my time? Like, what are my priorities during the day? And Larry said the priorities totally. So when I go all day to like a flea market or a sale, I'm totally cool with not working during that time because I need to go there to get my sourcing or I want to. Like once a quarter, I go to the casino. That's like my only like outings I ever take for myself. Once a quarter, and I take. My husband's like, you are such an accountant at heart because he's like, you do everything in quarters. But once a quarter, I go to the casino and I just spend all whatever amount of time I want to spend just wandering around. I just do. I just check out and I just have me time, and then I come home when I want to, and nobody's allowed to call me. But I only do that. That's about the only thing I really do. And I also want to say yes more to things that aren't work related. So like if Rowdy asks me to go on a side by side ride or something like that, I will always usually put down my work and I go. I say yes because that's important to me. However, if I get up and knock my work out really early, then whatever comes my way, I can say yes and still have gotten my work done. So I try to knock it all out. So whatever comes my way during the day isn't going to blow my work because I've got most of it done or all of it done already. Like the non-negotiables, right? So shipping and listing. I've got it done. So I try to have all my listings done and all my shipping done before this call. And that's usually not a big issue. But if you do it all at night and that's what works better for you, that's fine too, of course. But for me, if I just knock it out, then whatever happens, no matter what falls apart during the day, I've got it. I'm good. So you guys, the sales were pretty good this weekend? Everybody doing good? That's good. Yeah, I thought it was really active sales weekend. And you know, it comes and goes, right? It's always like an ebb and flow, and you just kind of ebb and flow with it. I mean, there's not much we can do besides keep doing our stuff. Um, I had to file more lost mail claims for Rowdy. The packages I haven't tracked for like 3 weeks, just stop tracking. So, I mean, the post office will pay him. It's not a big deal, but man, it's terrible. Good job, Devin. Yeah, it's hard. Yeah, Devin.
So I've got a there's a return. I've got a package that is lost. Okay, so it was just going from here to Oklahoma City. It's stagnant. It's doing nothing. It has not been updated since January the 6th was the last time it physically was touched. I mean, I've already been to the post office and he checked on it for me on Friday. I've already contacted eBay about it. So even though on my app here it says return request is open, they're very aware of it. I got confirmation number on with from the phone call and all that, a whole 9 yards on that. Um, it's just a $15 item. Should I still wait for that thing to? Do I need to wait for resolution from the post office?
Nope.
There's another cha-ching right there.
You owe it to the customer. So I'm assuming they have a case open, not a return. An item not
Yeah,
received.
yes.
So even though you talk to eBay and all that, those cases are that's the only defect I've ever gotten was because I talked to eBay, I talked to the customer was okay waiting on it. I told eBay that, they said that's cool. And then my case timed out because they give you like 2 or 3 days or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't realize it. It closed against me. I got the defect and then they still refunded them. I mean, it was terrible. And that was just my fault because I'm like, well, I talked to everybody and everybody's fine with it. But those cases, once they're open, you have to like resolve them. And it doesn't matter what confirmation number you have. It doesn't matter who you talk to. Basically, if it hasn't tracked in 10 days, you need to refund the customer.
Okay.
And then you file a claim with the post office. And I've never had any trouble getting paid from the post office.
Okay. Yeah, I opened that claim Friday. After I visited, after I made that visit. So I guess like I said, I might have $5 involved total. So I guess what my bigger question is, so to my knowledge, I don't know if this may be the first time I've ever had to file one of these. Um, when I asked you what the total was, do I have to do it for just for what it sold for or what the overall total cost was?
Yep, I always just screenshot the sold screen. And that's what I use for my documentation. And then it's so like the thing Rowdy sold was $19.99, one of them. And one was $72. And that's what it sold for. And so that's what my claim was because you don't add shipping in. It's got to be without the shipping. And then you put that in there. And then for my evidence for value, I put the screenshot of the sold screen. I've never had any problems.
Okay. Because it was, it was a $15 item. but you know, obviously they paid more than that. I guess what my concern is, am I actually going to, let's take out the fact that if, let's say the package does disappear, I never find it again. Okay. So, okay, say I'm out the $5 for that. But by doing this claim, am I still losing money no matter what?
No, why would you be losing money? They're gonna make you whole.
Because I only filed it for the $15 versus what the overall total cost was.
Well, that was your mistake.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep, because they will pay you whatever you sold the item for.
Okay.
So like Rowdy's, he sold it for 72 something. He got a check for 110 because then they add in the postage.
Okay. All right.
Yep.
Well,
So next time, that's how we learn. Yep. And
all
then,
right, thank you.
and then people get all bent out of shape on these Facebook groups and stuff. They talk about like, well, what if it shows up and those people get their item for free? Who cares? Like if you get your money back and it happens to show up at their door, oh well, then a customer's really happy with me that they got a refund and got that. Sometimes they'll contact you and say, "Hey, can I go ahead and pay for this or whatever?" But it doesn't matter as long as you get your money from the post office and you're made whole. Like, who cares really?
So I think one of the very first items I ever sold was a sous vide machine, and it was just going to Austin. It completely got lost. It was saying that undeliverable address, even though I could physically type in the address and see the house, and literally like a few weeks later I actually drove by the person's house when I happened to be down there on business. And so it wasn't like a hidden address
Creepy,
or nothing
Devin.
like
That's
that.
creepy.
Well, I was in the area anyway. It's not like I went knocking on the door. I just wanted to verify for myself. Um, so they ended up, I filed the claim with eBay. They basically took the money away from the buyer, refunded the money to me, and like out of nowhere, like 2 or 3 months later, the package ended up back at my doorstep. So
Yeah, usually you'll automatically if it doesn't track for 10 days, you need to refund the customer. That's just the rules.
yeah.
Otherwise they're gonna rule in their favor and then you're
Okay.
gonna get a defect.
Well, then I'll take care of that today as soon as I'm done with this next thing I'm working on.
Yep. And I had a lady, man, it was kind of a bummer too, because this necklace, I don't know what the post office did to it. It was in wrapping and it was in a jewelry box and it was fine when it left my house. And when it got to her house, it was in like 3 pieces. And it wasn't a high-end piece of jewelry, but I mean, I think we have to consider the cold. There's things that get brittle in these temperatures, and sometimes our items are sitting in warehouses that are really cold. And I think it was like it had some thermoplastic in it, and I think it got cold, and that's what broke. But anyway, basically, she told me like ruined her kid's wedding because she was wearing this for the wedding, and now she doesn't have time, and it was her first eBay purchase, and now she knows why everybody hates eBay. And
It's your fault.
oh, it was an ordeal. But I was just like the same thing I always do, and I'm like, I'm very, very sorry. Please open the return and all this stuff. And I just went ahead and refunded her because it was obviously my necklace and it was obviously broken and it was my packaging. I don't want it back. I mean, it wasn't her fault and it like what do I do? So I was very nice. So then she must have went and read my profile or whatever. And she emails me back and says, "Thank you so much." And she's like, "Iowa nice must be a real thing." And I'm sorry I kind of overreacted. So at least she was nice about it. But don't get, I mean, it was like, oh my gosh, like I felt bad because I don't want her to get this broken item either, and I don't want her to blame me because I didn't, however, it's on us to get it there in one piece, even though we can't control the mail system. So she ended up being very nice about it and gave me an Iowa nice speech. So um let's do our metrics quick. It's Monday, so we got to do our metrics. Devin, jog
Jerry, I
my
have a
memory.
quick question.
Yeah,
I have a
Russell.
quick question about that. When you have to do a refund like that and then claim it in with the post office, how does the eBay fees work? Do you add that into it or you just eat it?
They refund the fees.
Oh, do they? Okay, I didn't know if they did that or not.
I think so. And if not, it should be, I suppose I gotta look. I'm pretty sure I'm pretty sure they did. I'm pretty sure they did.
Well, actually, even if they didn't, you wouldn't have to include that with your post office claim because you're
Right.
claiming the total sale. So you'd actually get more that way than you would have an eBay deliver it.
Yep. That's true. Yep, because you're getting the full amount. Yep. I just remember, however, it was Rowdy was because he was really bummed out because that one sale was a pretty good one. And then I'm like, you'll be fine. Like the post office never fights lost mail claims. I've never had him fight one. So it'll be good. Devin, do you have a hand up again, or is that the same time?
I forgot to put it down.
Oh, you're fine. I just didn't want you to think I was ignoring you. All right, so. Oh, yep, in 15 minutes, we got Larry's repair workshop. So I don't know who has it. If you guys haven't tuned in to one of Larry's calls, you need to, and you need to watch them because they're always good and they're always something that all of us can use in one way or another. So if you haven't done that, you need to do that. All right, so I'm gonna share my screen. Let's do our metrics quick, and then it'll be Larry's turn. All right, guys, if you are in your seller hub or in your homepage, go to your cell or go however you like to get here. There's a few different ways to get here. So I go this way. And then the very first thing we're going to do is go to our orders. My computer's being laggy. Okay. And then go to returns. Let's see if we have any returns outstanding. This one, this reminds me a little bit of what Russell said the other day, like that Melinda had. She did the exact same wording of I'm going to, which is not feedback extortion, by the way, but like I'm going to let you take care of this before I leave feedback. If you want to issue me partial refund, exact same situation. And I just, there was nothing that I could see physically wrong with this. And I just said, hey, please open the return. I'd be happy to refund you and get the item back. Like Russell said, I think some people are fishing for a partial refund. I would almost guess I never see this item back. I bet she just lets it close. But we got to react nicely, because what if it really is a problem, right? What if this person really is having that issue? And then we react like, oh, you're just wanting a partial refund, feedback extortion, because it could be a real issue. It could be honest. It could be true. So we just handle everything the same. And then, yeah, I would guess I never see this back either. So then go one down to our requests and disputes. These will stay on here a long time. It's with the credit card company. They're all covered by eBay, but this is going to stay on my screen for a while. They aren't taking money from me, so I'm just letting it ride. Check your requests and disputes, because if you don't handle these very timely, bad things happen. So make sure we're handling them. All right, let's go up to performance up at the top. Let's go to our seller level. Hopefully we all have green top rated on the first three. If not, if your current level, or if we evaluated you today level is not, let's see why and see if we have time. We don't have time to fix it for this round because it's today. So the evaluation period is today. So hopefully everybody's going to be top rated and we don't have any problems. Transaction defect rate, we should always strive for this to be 0. I understand people are like, well, I had this and this didn't happen, nothing happened to me, but it's not good. We only get 0.5% leeway. So if you aren't making a lot of sales, that's not very much. If you have anything in here, you need to hit get full report and see what it is. And you can either, usually there can't transactions canceled for being out of stock, or the case is closed without seller resolution. That's what happens here. I won a great auction this weekend on eBay with a Trafari piece in it, and he canceled my order. But I will give him this. He canceled for being out of stock, which I doubt he was. I'm sure he's relisting it, if I had to guess. But at least he took it on the chin. So I don't do that. That's not my thing. Here, I know exactly what happened with my late packages. We get a 3% leeway. If you are creeping up anywhere near that, then you need to hit, make sure we're getting the full report, make sure you know why, what's happening, why aren't you 100%? Same way with this, that knocked me off 100, and I only have one item not tracked and uploaded on time. So, but it's fine. Just know what's going on. Case is closed without seller resolution. Hopefully we all have 0. If not, pull that arrow down. Let's see the cases. See what happened. How could we handle it better so it doesn't happen next time? All right, now let's go back up. We got to go back into the seller hub here.
I've never understood that one page looks completely different from all their others, and you have to back out the way you do.
I don't know either, but it is kind of a pain. Go down to the service metrics. And here's our return. So remember, this is all by category. So mine's easy because it's all in one category. So, you know, but if you have multiple categories, you need to pull this box down and see your categories. Current rate here is through November. I don't love how they do that this way either, but the projected rate is through December, which of course has already happened, but that's the one I need to worry about. Got better. As long as we're in green and yellow, we're okay. If you start getting into the orange and red, we need to pay attention, because if we get into the very high, they will assess you extra fees. So as long as we're there, we're doing okay. All right. And make sure you check your feedback once a week. Make sure you don't have any feedback we need to deal with. Is anybody having any issues that we need to talk about, or any help they need with any of those things? Also check your resolution hub and your settings up in your account settings, because that will tell you if you have any outstanding bureaus, which I'm sure you would know if you did, but just tells you where you're at on those things. Any questions? Comments? Colorful remarks? I was hoping, Lynn's not here this morning. I was going to ask her about a necklace. And Larry, for those of you that didn't hear, did cherry pick and get a 20, like a big bucket full of jewelry. So he's going to be going through that.
And I'm going to stop buying jewelry for the next month or two until I make my way through this stuff. Because I don't need to be compounding any mistakes that I'm making. I'm sure I've made a few here, but
We all do.
I gotta do some learning.
Well, one bad thing I will say is that jewelry piles up quick. So while it's easy to handle, easy to list and all that, you can end up with a hoard super fast. So I bought a couple big estates back to back, which usually I wouldn't have, but they were good opportunities. I don't regret it. But I ended up with a 90-day queue out of just those 2 estates really fast. So you end up with a big box of jewelry. That can be like months worth of listing, depending on what your listing goal is. So it's I would say I don't know, there's a hoarding mentality a little bit in general with all the niches. Sometimes you can have it, but I mean, I know people that have walls of boxes of jewelry. And you just got to start looking at that inventory as one, money, and two, as I shouldn't be buying things until I have these all in queues, because I mean, there's definite people that I know that have enough jewelry that if they only listed that, like, until their selling career is over, they won't get through it. Oh, it's the hospital for my mom. So I'm going to go, guys. I will hand it over to Larry.